Hey, what's going on, everyone? Back with another knife review. Today we're going to be looking at the Shirogorov FS NS, and this, of course, has the bronze carbon fiber handle, which I'm a huge fan of. It's kind of smashed carbon fiber and bronze. This is the box that it comes in. As we've said before, Shirogorov keeps things very, very simple, so just a pretty chintzy cardboard box. Don't have a problem with it, but there it is. The details on this knife, so it features a 3.75-inch blade with a stonewash finish. It's going to be 8.75 inches overall. It weighs a very appropriate 4.6 ounces. This one, of course, is a titanium liner lock, so the liners on here are titanium. The blade steel is going to be Bowler M390. The pivot system is Shirogorov's multi-row bearing system. Closed, you're looking at 5 inches. It has a titanium pocket clip, and it is going to be right-hand tip up only. There's no way for this to go ambi. And the MSRP on this bad Larry is $895. So we're gonna jump in. I've had some time to spend with this and also comparing it to my Quantum Ursus, and I want to give you my thoughts. All right, as I've said in my last videos where I've been looking at some of my Shiros, the Quantum Ursus, I really did struggle with the Quantum design, like having this exposed lock bar here. Again, I have really big hands, but even my buddy Devin, I sent this knife to him to, I kind of wanted a sanity check in a way to be like, am I crazy, or does your finger get in the way of this too? And he said the same thing. You have to be very intentional with where your fingers are on the, the clip side of the blade in order to fire this thing every time. Then enter in, the Shirogorov FS NS, which it does have carbon fiber scales that go over the titanium liners, and I mean, I kind of left that problem in the dust. Like, this thing, I've never had a failure to fire with it. So the problems that I had with the Quantum Ursus, and I bought this fully intending to make the jump to the second generation of this one. So again, it's pretty expensive as far as knives go, but I kind of held off a little bit, and I was like, let's take a look at this FSNS, and I couldn't be happier. Like, they they definitely, everything I didn't like about the Quantum Ursus, was answered or fixed with this FSNS. All right, the next point that I wanted to bring up, as far as knives go, and I realized too on my page I make a lot of like car comparisons. This really does feel like if a supercar was a knife. I don't know if it's the carbon fiber, the action, the lightness of it, the fit finish, just all the detail that went into this. This is the supercar of knives for sure. I love the action. This flipper tab, even compared to the Quantum Ursus or any of my other knives, is superior. Like, it's not too obtrusive. There's a great feel to it. Positive engagement with it. It's actually really crazy. And then, as I said in the beginning, this like kind of compressed carbon fiber with bronze in there. I mean, it's beautiful. It's not plain carbon fiber or plain whatever. Like, I mean, they took a lot of time and effort, and they even like machined, the carbon fiber scales once they were on there. So everything is like nice, rounded, kind of aerodynamic, and I really like that about it. Just going down to the pocket clip. Again, it's milled titanium, super comfortable in your pocket. It's awesome. That you can tell, like, I know I've said it in past videos too, like every part of this knife was done with like a question. They're like, well, what would be the best way to do this or this? And then they made it so. Like, that's awesome. I also really like the non-proprietary hardware. So again, this just has, this pivot screw and then this back screw right here, which, it's not proprietary. You don't need a special tool. I will say though, so these pivots can be ordered through Recon One, and they're about, I know this from the Quantum, they cost about $10, but Recon One, unless they hook you up, which luckily this time around I did get hooked up, it'll cost you $12 shipping for a $10 screw that they actually fly in from Russia, because this is titanium. And I know some people will, use credit cards, tape them together, whittle them down so you can work this pivot screw, whatever. This is a very wide pivot, and I've almost, like, the more knives that I get into, I will take like a T8 all day. Like I just think this leaves so much room for the blade of a screwdriver to kind of scratch or mar it. I mean, it is titanium, so you're not going to do anything crazy to it, and obviously the torque you're putting on it, like the torque spec for this is very light once you get it tuned, but it's just kind of interesting to me. Like I wouldn't, I know people like the, you know, open face, we'll call it, you know, regular flathead screwdriver, but it's a very wide head and it leaves a lot of room. Like if you're not paying attention, like you can definitely mar it. As I've said, I have not taken this one apart yet, and it does have that multi-row bearing system, which kind of one of my question marks. I don't know if anybody knows the answer to this, please chime in. I'm pretty sure that even with the multi-row bearing system, there's still loose bearings, which is not a showstopper, but it still is like frustrating, especially when you have, you know, other companies that are making caged bearings. For instance, like this, you know, McNeese, this has cage bearings in there, so you take them out and you're not trying to pick up, you know, 32 little balls that are rolling around. I just think like the technology is there, and for, you know, the fact that I like to take care of my stuff, so I like to be able to take it apart, clean it, etc. It's just, honestly, like it's frustrating. It is such an ass pain to deal with loose bearings. So I'm not sure if the multi-row bearing system are loose bearings. I know for sure that the single row bearing system are loose bearings, and I don't really like that about that. So more to come. I mean, I might, you know, when I have some time, maybe take this thing apart and we'll kind of see what's under the hood. All right, the last detail that I really liked about this Shiro was this milled titanium backspacer. I know on the Quantum Ursus, you just kind of have this single, you know, backspacer. Like it's pretty small. It just kind of, you know, fits the size of the screw hole. But I actually really do like this, and since it is, you know, it has carbon fiber handles on it, it balances the knife really well. Like that's what I would say about this, and I think that's where I get more into that like supercar knife, or yeah, supercar knife analogy. This knife is one of the most well-balanced knives that I own. Like I really think like you pick it up and, you know, it's not super top heavy, back heavy, anything like that. It sits in your hand, like the center of gravity is right where you'd want it, like right there, like just literally right where my finger would wrap it. So they did an awesome job with that. Love the back spacer. I think it's really cool. A couple other details that I forgot to mention, actually. So similarly to the Berg Iron Wolf, which I have right here, which again, like the flipper tab as compared to a Berg Iron Wolf, it's much more recessed, but you don't need much more than this. I really love how where the flipper tab is, it's almost like cut out a little bit so that, you know, as I said in the Berg Iron Wolf video, you can kind of have positive contact with that tab through the entire stroke of firing this knife, and the Shiro definitely does that as well, and I think that that's really cool. I wish that more flipper knives did that. I don't really know why, except it just gives me, like, every time I fire this thing, I have positive lockup. There's never been a time that I've short stroked it, my finger got in the way, whatever. Like, any amount of pressure that I'm putting on this thing to fire it actually does fire it, and I think that's really cool. The next detail that I wanted to talk about was the jimping, which obviously I'm a huge jimping fan. This one does have jimping, and it's interesting to me that it's kind of like progressive jimping here. So on most knives or any other knife that I've seen that features jimping, they're the same and they're evenly spaced out. This one actually tapers off as you get closer to the tip, and I do like that. My only like question is, this is like a larger knife. There's no forward choil on it for you to choke up on. I have like, I mean, I take size XXL gloves, like my hands are huge. When I'm holding this, like, I don't know if it's that comfortable. Like, I don't know if I would ever need like that much real estate to choke up on this thing, but it is nice. And again, it kind of keeps the lines of the knife, but it is very shallow, gentle jimping. I mean, this is like the complete opposite from like a Chavez or something like that. So, you know, very nice. I mean, if you have soft hands, you're gonna love this jimping because it's not gonna tear your hands up. Another piece that I noticed was the pocket clip as compared to the Quantum Ursus. Again, the Quantum Ursus is the budget Shirogorov. Honestly, I have this one for sale right now, kind of just trying to move away from that. I'll get into yeah, kind of my mindset with things in another video. But one of the things I do appreciate about the Quantum Ursus is you know, in keeping the design, kind of the sweeping nature, looking at these higher end knives, keeping the looks of it, or cosmetically, you know, how it appears. This has the screw actually for the pocket clip is inside. So in order to take the pocket clip off, or do, I don't know what sort of maintenance you'd have to do, you would actually have to take this knife apart in order to access it. And I just think it's kind of interesting that this is like the lowest end knife, but you know, a higher end one such as this FS/NS, that screw's actually on the outside so you can adjust it. And I think like writ large, like, you know, I use blue Loctite when I, you know, put things back together after I clean them. I don't really need to have access to that screw. And if I do feel like a pocket clip is getting loose, I don't have any problem taking the whole thing apart, cleaning it, putting it in, whatever. So it's interesting to me. Like, I know that this is in their deck of cards to do this because, case in point, they do it right here. On this higher end model, they throw another screw on the external to it. And the other thing, again, it may be a little nitpicky, but it's the only like face of the screw on this side. Like this one, it kind of makes sense. You have that open face, but here you have closed face, open face. And it's just kind of weird. Like, I mean, this knife is beautiful, and that's kind of why I'm judging it so harshly, but that's kind of interesting to me. And I don't really like it that much, but again, I'm being super nitpicky. It has no bearing on the function, anything like the knife, just an observation. All right, and since I started being nitpicky, yeah, one of the other things that I noticed, and again, I really do love the setup of this knife, how my fingers will never impede the action of it, but one of the question marks that I have, and I love knives that have an open construction that I can kind of like see in all the little crevices. I can take this thing apart completely, blow it out, wipe it out with alcohol, put some new, you know, grease or oil, whatever I need to do, blue Loctite, put it back together. It's basically like a new knife. But with this one, I kind of wonder, and I don't know if y'all will be able to see it, but you know, you have this separation here. So between the carbon fiber and this lock bar, there's a space in between there. And like, I'm kind of curious, like, you know, whether it's like lint, something stupid, whatever. I don't know how you would ever clean in here. Again, like, you need to have that separation so you can actually work the lock bar, but it's kind of a question to me. Like, I think only time will tell, like, whether I get a bunch of stuff mashed in there. I can't see how I ever would, but it's kind of interesting because I don't know, like, you can't take these scales off to clean in there, and I guess you could get one of those, like, you know, air dusters to clean in there, but that's kind of interesting to me. Like, I again can't say enough good things about this knife, but that was one of the things that I looked at, was like, what kind of stuff is gonna be, you know, get grime, etc. Like, we'll get in there and I won't be able to get it out because you can't get in there by any means. Like, I can't put a Q-tip in there. Kind of interesting. I don't know, but we will see. All right, and the last piece that I want to bring up with the Shiro before I kind of give my final remarks on this thing, I know I said it for the Quantum Ursus, but it's worth bringing up again. So I call it the service problem with Shirogorov knives. And as I went through the Quantum Ursus, like, how this basically works is, you know, these being made in Russia, if you have to get them serviced, etc., you have to send them back to where you got them from, which if you got a Shirogorov in the US, you 99% of the time got it from Recon 1, and they're a decent shop. They've definitely taken care of me. It's nice to have a real human answer the phone, but you know, if this has to go in for servicing, it's not like you're sending this thing to like Bend, Oregon to get it cleaned up or anything. Like, I always use kind of like Curtis is a great example of, like, you know, calling them, you know, they answer the phone, they'll get you straightened out. This one, there's a few more steps and a ton of miles that goes into getting it, you know, kind of, whether it's cleaned up, sharpened, another, you know, a part for it, whatever. Like, just keep that in mind. Like, I mean, I think it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like owning a Ferrari or something. Like, yeah, there's like Ferrari dealers, but like, they're made in Italy, so like any parts or like, you're just not going to get anything from the horse's mouth. There's always going to be a middleman there. And I think when you get into the price of these knives, that can be a little bit dangerous. Again, I have not had any problems with it. Again, I thought this Quantum Ursus. I thought this was going to have to go back to Shirogorov. It didn't end up having, to do that, but it's just something that I keep in the back of my mind. That's definitely a downside of buying a knife that's made in Russia, is that, how are you going to get this thing serviced if you need to, especially with the price point. And also, like, on price again, this one $895. They are sold out everywhere. I paid about $70 more than the MSRP for this one, but I do think, like, this will be my one Shiro. Like, there's nothing else that really appeals to me. This is the Shiro, and I think it's the best flipper that I've tested, and I've tested quite a few, so it has that going for it for sure. But the only problem with these knives, and I had a very specific instance of where this happened, and I was like, man, like, I need to make a point to kind of remind people, like, for the price of this, as far as knives go, like, I would literally cry if I lost this thing. And a very specific example is I took this to work, let's see, about a week and a half ago. And, like, I leave my uniform at work in my locker, and I'm in the military. I forgot this in my pants pocket, and I don't know if it was just like my OCD, maybe I'm just like weird or whatever, but like, I was kind of like all night being like, oh my God, like, I hope I come in tomorrow morning and this thing is still in my pocket. I definitely left it in my pocket, right? I definitely did what I, like, so that's one of the things. Like, it kind of scares me. Like, it's not like, a handgun where you're like, I have a moral responsibility to make sure that this thing is locked up at the end of the knife, like, at the end of the night, not knife. But with that, like, it is a tool. It's an EDC tool that's very expensive, and I guess I sometimes forget them in my pants pockets, whatever, and that's kind of dangerous to me. Like, I don't like that feeling that I get, and I was kind of sick to my stomach. Whereas, like, if I would have left, I don't have anything over here that I wouldn't cry about, but like, if it was like a Benchmade bug out, I'd be like, okay, cool, like, it's definitely in my pocket, I'll get it tomorrow, no drama. But with a knife like this, like, you're kind of like, man, like, I don't know, I don't sleep as well if I don't know exactly where this thing is. So with that, again, I'll wrap it up here. This is my favorite Shiro. This is the one that I will, hold on to. I think it's great. It is more expensive than the Quantum Ursus, but I think, like, for what you get, if you're looking to get into a Shiro, this is kind of the baseline, and like, anything other than that will just kind of be, you're essentially making an exception to an exceptional knife. Like, this is just kind of it's not all there for the price point. They were definitely kind of pushing the envelope with the Quantum Ursus. I think with this FS/NS, they knocked it out of the park, and I see why there's such a cult following with Shiro. I don't have any of, like, the 2-bear, 3-bear, whatever. Like, this is like a baseline Shiro. I'm not saying it's a custom or anything like that, but I'm very impressed, and I think you'll find that anyone that handles this knife, reviews it, if you do a search on YouTube for one, no one really says bad things about this knife, and I totally get it. And I kind of, when I got it in the mail, I was like, cool, I can find a bunch of things wrong with this. Like, I always start from a very negative place, I guess, but yeah, this thing's it. I'm definitely going to be sending it to my buddy Devin so he can test it out, because I'm convinced that this is the best flipper that I have ever put my hands on. So we will catch you next time, and yeah, hope you all have a good weekend. Bye.